Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the weekly Steelchair. After a very successful podcast last week, well, the watch along that, of course, I started. Eilidh joined us, obviously, because the timing is a bitch. We blame the clocks.
Yeah, those clocks, they go back, they go forward, but this time, no such confusion. However, same technical difficulties had to persist. So we're 10 minutes later than we wanted to be. But, that's the way things can be sometimes. And we're here to round up all the big stories from the world of wrestling this week and talk about the interesting direction several things seem to be going. And before we dive into that, I'm not sure if we'll get a very interesting answer or the one we usually get. But Reece, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. I've had a very busy week, interesting week, lots to do. But no, overall, I'm just glad to be back on. I'm running the channel for a little while whilst Keen's in Tenerife. So
you're
if you're
taking
looking
Keen's head, Keen is left the post. Not Vince McMahon-esque, but he's gone for a bit of a holiday, and fair enough to him. So obviously, second in command, right-hand man, Alexander Hamilton over there, but it's Reece instead who'll be running things.
Absolutely, and that's where we're at, really. And it's good to see adjusting the role. Obviously, from time to time, I will help run the channel. But another thing as well, if you remember, 6 days ago, our last stream, we did a Crown Jewel watch along, which we went through, and I can confirm to you as of now, we are now at 725 views on the watch along. So we're doing it's still rising as well, even after a week. It's still rising.
Yeah,
but
yeah. The initial bump that got. I was like, I don't know how many people watch a watch along. So when we saw it, it was basically 700 not long after the show had finished. So
I know.
Obviously, massive thanks to everyone watching that. And Reece, you can take a lot of the credit because, as you said, you were there for the whole thing, and I joined in very much once you've got the ball rolling.
True, but it's good to see you. And how are you doing? Are you having a good week? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Obviously, Friday, Saturday is my weekend as opposed to Saturday, Sunday. So, I'll be gearing up for work again tomorrow. But, it's been a good week. And, of course, we get a week closer to, unbelievably, that time of year. And the weeks just seem to be going so fast. But every week of wrestling brings its own stories to talk about. So it's good to obviously be here every week and to discuss those points. And speaking of which, Reece, what is the first one that we're talking about today?
Absolutely. And you are a permanent fixture on, well, this is, as you correctly coined it a few weeks ago, this is my baby. The show is mine, and it's there for all to see. So we are going to be here for about an hour and a half today, and that's perfectly fine. And as Eilidh has correctly mentioned, I've actually done some banners for today's show, which is not normally done for the stream, but I have done today. And the first point is, because obviously we discussed it last week, and we may as well, we didn't really discuss it, we lived it, but today we're going to discuss it. So here we go. Today's first banner of topic discussion: Crown Jewel. Was it a success or was it a failure? Now, the reason I'm pointing this out, because from a successful standpoint, it was, in terms of revenue, it was the highest amount that WWE have made from a premium live event all year, categorically. It even eclipsed both nights of WrestleMania combined. But the failure standpoint is, did they get decisions wrong based on booking? And additionally, have they now lost a big opportunity? And that is today's general first discussion point. So I'm going to come to you first on this one, Eilidh, whilst we're waiting to see if anyone wants to add comments to that in live chat. No, currently nobody's here at the moment, but I know for a fact we will get our regulars here soon because they are aware we're live. And also I made them aware through social media. But in terms of it, success or failure, now we loved the pay-per-view. We really loved it. Obviously, there were some things that we definitely disagreed with. But in a sense of a failure or success, or even straight down the middle, where are you aligned at the moment? And And if you'd like to elaborate as well on your point of view at the moment.
Yeah, I think economically you can't really argue that it was a failure. It was absolutely a success, as you say. I mean, even last night on SmackDown, there were all these things about like, oh, the main event stole the show, but also things like, it was the most watched Saudi event. It was more successful than the last year's Crown Jewel, both in terms of the revenue and, of course, by sort of product of that, the popularity, the numbers watching it. So they really seem to be gaining a foothold in Saudi Arabia. Now, the thing is, sometimes when you watch a show and you finish watching it, you're like, oh, that was good. Because you're on the high of the main event, and the main event has delivered and actually, been a lot better. It's exceeded your expectations. And I think that's fair to say for Roman Reigns versus Logan Paul. That match was, undeniably for most people the best match on the card. As I say, I think looking back on it, I could say that it is. In the moment, it felt like the six-man was more enjoyable.
Agreed.
But at the same time, the six-man hasn't mattered nearly as much. It was barely sort of talked about in comparison to this Roman Reigns, Logan Paul really putting him over. I mean, Finn Balor is going to go on to fight Seth Rollins Monday night on Raw. So, they're in different sort of gears with it. I feel like, however, sometimes when you look back on a show, you start to see the flaws more because the flaws are more damaging. Yeah. So in the moment, you see great match, fantastic stuff, really enjoying it. And we were sitting on the watch along and we were chatting away with the regulars, with the lovely people that joined us for it. And we're forever grateful for that.
Absolutely.
But once that's all said and done, once the regulars go away, once we stop talking to each other and you get to reflect on it, I wonder what we actually saw at Crown Jewel. And Brock versus Lashley is exactly what I wanted it to be. I think that's fair enough. I like that they kept Lashley strong. Because I didn't want Brock to just go in and steamroll him. But then you look at, okay, we got the women's tag team titles changing hands again. All right, yeah, that awful steel cage match. Looking back on it, there was very little to like about it when you really take the feeling out of it of the moment and the suspense of not knowing. An awful last women standing match, but that was awful even when you didn't know who was going to win. And then the main event was fantastic. So I think in ring and for long-term booking, I don't know if you can call Crown Jewel a success. A lot of it doesn't actually seem to matter.
I agree. I completely agree with you, and that's where my head is leaning towards, because even from a booking sense, during the match as well, the main event, whether it be a shoot or legit, depending on how they're doing this, Logan Paul injures himself doing the buckshot lariat. So, he's delivered it brilliantly. I'm not going to take that away from him. That is a brilliant move, but he's injured himself. And he's working an extra 10 minutes with an injury. So that just shows an incredible athlete. Like he is. He's incredible. We discussed that. I mean, I'm not particularly a big fan of him. I've always been honest about that. But I did at least give him credit where credit's due. And I'm always going to do that to somebody if they are genuinely passionate about the business. And it looks like he is passionate. My only concern is other means to going forward. Like you mentioned, like the six-man tag. I completely agree with you. Already they've moved Finn Balor onto something else, which has completely derailed the point of the OC. What is the point in bringing back the OC if you're just going to move Finn Balor straight away onto Seth Rollins? Seth Rollins right now should not be working with Finn Balor. He shouldn't be. He should be continuing this going feud with Mustafa Ali. That was where it was to a degree. Like, Mustafa Ali is not particularly entertaining. Well, as he used to be, it's not his fault. He got shoveled as well, and we'll be coming to the Golden Shovel very soon. But Mustafa Ali has been, for the past 3 or 4 months, he's been reinventing himself. And it's like going back to when he first came up from NXT, when he was wearing the LED mask, and he was getting himself back into the fold, and he was a genuine mid-card contender. And then they shoveled him. Now he's getting the opportunity. He's challenging Seth Rollins, and then boom. One, we spoke about, and we were extremely pissed off that Seth Rollins was not even on the pay-per-view when he should have been, because he's, apart from Roman Reigns, he's the most over guy. Apart maybe Sami Zayn as well, but obviously Sami, personal reasons, of course, wasn't going to be there. But in terms of a Raw perspective, there is nobody on Monday Night Raw that is more over than Seth Rollins. Nobody. And that's a big loss there. They should have the US title. Not having the IC title in a way, not being defended as well. I think they got the Mysterio title match wrong. It was good on SmackDown. In my opinion, it should have been done in Saudi. What's the point in having that opportunity there if you're not going to use it? I would have done. But it's the fact that, and I reflect on that essentially, we love Finn Balor, we love the Balor Club, and we love Styles and all that, and we've never changed our opinion on that, but this feud could have continued going somewhere. They could have had something like at the Royal Rumble, or even like see how far they can go. But the fact that they've shifted Finn Balor onto Seth Rollins already is cheap, and I feel sorry for the both of them, because that is generally what it's going to come on to when we speak about further in the show, when we criticise Triple H's booking, because he is not getting let off today.
I don't know. Again, it's that modern thing of, well, I mean, you don't know how many people are involved in this issue. But again, it's not the booking that I like to see. I like to see a feud that it's not drags out, but plays out between two people. We don't always need to insert a third person. These two people could just not like each other for a while and then fight over the fact that they don't like each other. And also this idea that, like, only the person that wins the feud goes onwards. And if Styles was to lose an overall feud with Balor, it would bury AJ Styles. Okay, A, it wouldn't. And B, AJ Styles doesn't need protecting.
Exactly.
He's an established star, a future Hall of Famer, and one of the best in the world. It's like saying you could bury Nakamura. You can't. Nakamura's having a match on New Year's Day in Japan against the Great Muta. So you don't get to that level. You don't get to that level by getting buried on SmackDown. So he's not been buried. It's just, that hyperbole, that over-exaggeration when something doesn't go their way. And I think we're guilty of over-exaggeration at times, And
we are.
I don't want to be that sort of... I don't want to be that sort of sensationalist commentary channel, but I also don't want to go the other way and be like, Crown Jewel was amazing, it was fantastic, this, that. Because when you look at the event as a whole, it didn't really touch the sides, did it?
Flat to deceive.
It was quite and up until the main event, most of that you would have been okay seeing on weekly TV.
I agree.
Even the 6-man, as much as I loved it, you could have done it on Raw, and it wouldn't have felt out of place. The matches themselves seem to lack the pomp and circumstance outside of the opener and the closer, because Lashley Lesnar did feel big time. That felt too big to be on Raw. Much like how Lashley and Goldberg had to wait for pay-per-views, and they did a match in Saudi and they did SummerSlam, because it's just two behemoths and they're not going to fight on weekly TV. So, I feel like the mid-card, like the middle of that card, was pretty flat. Just nothing really, and anything that was enjoyable hasn't seemed to have built to something. And if it builds to something from from Monday night onwards, then that's great. But then also, why wasn't it the instant response? Why wasn't that the knee-jerk reaction? Just an opposition. So I get what Liam's saying. I think it was a success for how people would perceive it, but I also think you get into dangerous territory when you just... That's why I'm being quite nuanced with the success-failure thing, and there is a divide. I feel like in-ring it was more of a failure.
No, I do agree with you, and hope you're doing good, Liam. Thanks for tuning in. And of course, Natural as well. Greg's here as well, and Greg's good to see you, mate. Hope you're well. Greg says, I would assume Seth versus Finn is a one-off match and a reason to build tension between OC and Judgment Day. There's no way that's done. I certainly hope not.
So the thinking there from Greg would likely be that Finn's about to win the IC title and AJ costs him, or AJ causes a DQ, something like that, and then maybe the three of them feud over the US title. I mean, I just feel like Seth doesn't have to be there. Like, if it's a one-off and Seth moves on to someone else, then great, fine. I feel like Seth gets in the way with the feud we actually want. I feel like it's universe mode booking to have all three feud with each other.
Yeah, because you saw it on Raw as well. The minute the OC came out, obviously Balor was he was going for I wouldn't really say he was going for the open challenge. He was more out there just to dismantle Rollins anyway, regardless of the title's mine or not. The minute the OC came out, it was quite slow and methodical, and then after that, Rollins just got out of the ring and left, as if he knew, like, my place in here is done. But we'll see. I am liking the fact that we are getting to the fact that obviously he is more of the face turn. I mean, obviously Greg has mentioned
That is true. That is true. I did forget about Seth Rollins sort of really leaning into a face turn, which is odd because again, you think about how quickly these things change.
Yeah.
2-3 weeks ago, there's no way Seth Rollins. I mean, when he won the US title,
he won it in huge fashion.
He won it in one of the most despicable ways, by goading an injured Bobby Lashley into defending his title anyway. You're supposed to be a champion. You're supposed to be a soldier. And then he comes,
Exactly.
And then 3 weeks later, I mean, Seth wasn't getting booed anyway. We said it on the show before. Seth wasn't exactly a heel.
Agreed.
But to go from acting like a heel to then just, he's MJF. I don't think it's as egregious as MJF. But yeah, it's like the actions don't really fit the man yet.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the reflection of it. No, I want to see him get a longer run as a babyface. I know his last one didn't work out in the way that I'd hoped because he's brilliant as a heel and he works well as a babyface. It just didn't work for him because I don't think it suited the gimmick himself, where he was constantly referring to himself as like different monikers that he had that really. The Kingslayer, like the Beastlayer and all that. That's not really...
The other thing that didn't help his face run, of course, was Becky Lynch.
Yeah, whereas
just
now...
the fact that because they were both there, they were both face, they were on the same show, so they got booked and stuff together. And, you had that Corbin and Lacey Evans feud. As in, they didn't feud with each other, but Seth and Becky feuded. That would be an interesting feud.
Yeah. And we don't have that issue now. We don't have that issue now where he's so over purely because of like the whole Messiah complex and the fact that he's getting people to sing his song. Like he can take that.
Then when Becky comes back, do you have to put her on SmackDown? He was a knob on Twitter. That's true as well. Will Ospreay being one of the recipients of that, but there were many.
When we come to booking shortly, because obviously Triple H is going to get criticised today, and just saying that again,
he's not going to get buried.
No,
but
he's
we
not.
Do have to say, we do have to mention certain things, for sure.
But that is something, women in particular, we will be mentioning because there are some issues that have been really annoying me on SmackDown as of late. And you know this because I messaged you the other day as well, which really annoyed me. So we're getting to that. And the next one's an open book in terms of the next topic of discussion.
Is it the Book of Pain?
If only. But it's more or less a book of pain for anybody else credible, and it's this: the world title dilemma. And it's purely a dilemma from now, where the sense of where generally do they go? Because like, yes, Roman Reigns has passed 800 days as world champion, fair enough, no problem. But my issue with it now is like, it looks like clear as day they're going to try for Cody Rhodes at the Royal Rumble, wins that and wins the title, but is that generally the best thing? And the reason I'm saying that is because like he's been gone for quite a while. He has to get himself back into the groove. You saw how fans have reacted to certain Rumble winners before, whether they be overly popular or even well respected. They go and win the Rumble, and immediately fans have either dislike the situation or they've turned on it. And obviously right now, because of Roman's character and how established he is, even though I don't particularly like it, but I still have to respect the work he puts in. It's that general booking where he just doesn't seem to get beat. And I get that. You want to see a champion who looks strong, but when there is no one there credible to go through, who else did they basically turn to as well? Because there's also rumours that Nick Aldis is going to be in the Royal Rumble because he's done with NWA after how they treated Maria Kanellis' women's organisation. He's quit. So there's a chance that
I thought he was also annoyed because they were pushing Trevor Murdoch.
Yeah, he is getting pushed.
Yeah, so I thought he was annoyed at that, and there was something to do with like physique. Nah, the thing is about Roman Reigns, obviously, really enjoying it. I think he's got real on-screen presence now, as I said before, and he really leans into everything that he's asked to do. It's not the case of I'm out here and I'm bored. He's clearly enjoying it, and that's good too. Greg will vouch for me on this one. I was a bit deflated come the end of SmackDown last night because I don't know. I expected more. I expected it to look like more at the end.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns' special business wasn't even clear. It was like a special announcement from Roman Reigns that was coming on last night's SmackDown. And he didn't get to make it because they were interrupted by the Brawling Brutes. Now, Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, Jimmy, and Jey Uso, they're all in the ring.
Yeah.
Brawling Brutes music hits, so out come Butch and Ridge Holland. Hello, sup? Yeah, so out comes Butch and Ridge Holland, and they say, Ridge says, Butch thankfully didn't speak while he's this character, but Ridge Holland's like, we brought company, we brought back up, and it's Sheamus. So then Michael Cole screams, it's fight night. And then these 3 people charge at 4 people.
Yeah.
And then we were meant to be surprised when the numbers get... The whole thing was, we brought something to level up the numbers, even up the numbers game. And they brought 1 person to counter 2 people. I don't get it. And then they must have somehow knew that Drew McIntyre was going to come and back them up. But if they knew that, why didn't Drew just come out? And if they didn't know that, what's Drew doing?
Yeah.
It was really quite messy. There were better ways to do that, I think. I mean, for a starter, you could have had all 4 come down at the same time. I get that it's like, it's a big reveal that it's Sheamus, but let's be honest, if the Brits say they've got backup, it's Sheamus. Come on. And then, Drew McIntyre was quite an obvious one to turn to as well.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of those things where it wasn't obvious before it happened. Then as soon as it was Drew, you were like, it would be Drew. And that's great, because Drew and Sheamus have had like a woven-in narrative all throughout. I mean, I think it predates 2022. I think they were doing stuff last year. Quite a long rivalry between those two, and quite a storied one as well, especially on the Blue Brand's perspective. I just feel like the ending was really flat. I mean, a 4-on-4 skirmish in the ring. I had to check I wasn't watching Dynamite.
And that's generally the worst part as well, is when it is so flat, you actually have to physically double check the channel. And that's really become the problem, and we'll be coming to that very shortly. It's overall booking. It's not knowing what to do in the situation. It's not having anything strong to build around. It's
having the 2 world titles together as 1 world title.
Yeah.
Because if AJ Styles was the other world champion right now, Finn Balor and AJ Styles would have an easy feud over a title and the OC Judgment Day stuff.
Exactly.
If Bobby Lashley had the other title, Brock Lesnar would want that, and if Brock Lesnar's done now, someone else could step up to Lashley. When you have 2 world titles, you double the possibilities.
And
while we've got this Roman Reigns of terror, it's quite entertaining recently, but overall, we can't forget some of the nonsense we've seen. This Roman Reigns of terror, it's dull because he has both titles.
Mm-hmm.
And it means that there's only 1 world champion, it's Roman Reigns, and no matter who comes out, they're below him, they're beneath him.
And that's the part where as well, he's on that type of pedestal where whoever takes the title next, ideally you're going to think, they're going to be in a great position because they're the ones that's beaten Reigns.
Yeah.
He's not lost on it. He's not lost but it's going to be 4 years. It's 4 years in less than a month's time. But he last lost a flame. Well, it's 3 or 4 years since he last lost at a pay-per-view, and that was Baron Corbin.
The dog food thing. Oh. Okay, not quite sure. You all right?
Yeah, just the stupid connection issues. Sorry.
Okay. I said, was it the dog food thing?
Yeah.
That was his last.
That was the last time he lost, yeah. TLC 2019.
Unless you count the DQ loss at the Rumble. But I know what you mean. Like,
yeah,
loss,
in terms like a general pinfall submission, yeah, it's been that long. He's so protected. He shouldn't have to be protected that much. Like,
is there real possibility that Cody Rhodes could win the Rumble and it's not what the fans are wanting? Like, you mentioned it before. If Sami Zayn keeps hitting the right note with people, I don't think you risk a Batista, Daniel Bryan-esque situation, but you could potentially risk, people not being as behind Cody as they need to be because they want Sami Zayn.
Yeah, and that's where it's going to become a massive problem. It's Daniel Bryan and Batista all over again.
I don't think it's that bad because Batista actively nobody wanted Batista. I think people still want Cody. I think they keep showing the video to get people to want Cody and to remind people that he's there. So that everyone goes, oh yeah, can't wait for Cody to win the belt. Because they show the whole promo. Like, they show his whole run. Like, from the Seth Rollins show, the WrestleMania match, to the Hell in a Cell thing, but it shows the promo as well, where Cody's like, I made a promise to get the world title and stuff like that. Get the world title, I can't put in the hands of the American Dream, but I can hold it as his son, that sort of thing. I think they're really just trying to keep that narrative, like, don't forget about Cody. Remember when Cody wins the Rumble? You people wanted Cody to win the belt before, and we did. So why didn't you just strike then? I don't get it. They sit on things, and it's annoying because now we're in a dilemma where Roman's got a few more empty title defenses to have before WrestleMania, the only one that we know he can lose, and it's probably going to be Cody. But then if it's not Cody, there's the real possibility that it goes on another year.
And that's the worst part. This title reign, it just cannot go that long. If it continues to go this long, it's going to lose people's interest massively. I'm already bored of it. Like, I'm bored of the fact that it's gone this long, where there's been very controversial decisions, like the Royal Rumble decision against Rollins, like, never got anything conclusive. After that, it's never had the last man standing against Kevin Owens as well. The referee deliberately stopped the count. They should have kept going. Like, he should have kept going. Kevin Owens, by all rights, should have won that match. The way it was going, they just stupidly stopped because Reigns isn't back up of it. Just listen to Reigns because he runs the show. No, but
so I mean,
I'm bored in that sense. I'm bored of how
it seems like War Games, we're not going to have a world title match. We've been used to not having a world title match at Survivor Series because they do the champion versus champion thing, but Roman can't fight himself. I'm sure they'd book it if it was possible, but Roman can't fight himself. So Roman's probably in the War Games, and that seemed to be what they were building on SmackDown. We just don't know who the fifth person is. Guys, if you want to put your guesses in the comments, we'll definitely talk about it. Who do you think the fifth person for War Games is?
I think it'll be the whole bloodline. I think Reigns will be involved just to assert dominance. But it's who is the fifth man for...
Yeah, who's on the Brutes and McIntyre? Because my guess is odd, to say the least.
Braun Strowman?
No. That's a good guess, though. Like, I could see Braun doing it.
Who are you thinking?
I said Tyson Fury.
Maybe, but I don't know. And the reason I say good shout. Be
It's a
funny if they
Triple
called
H
him.
guy.
Be funny if they called him Braun Breaker just for one shot. Some good points here though, like just for the comments itself. So like Yeti Boy saying, I don't think that Cody won the title now. I don't know if Triple H likes him after what he did in AEW. It's a fair
I don't know,
shout.
because it wasn't. Triple H and Cody have buried the hatchet, and obviously Cody said on interviews like, no, Triple H was my hero, this, that. So I don't think that's the case. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it wasn't Triple H's decision. Vince was still in charge when that happened.
yeah.
So you
That's
don't know
true.
if he holds him in the same light. I think he'll see the writing on the wall, though. And I think he'll realise that Cody's cut that promo. If he never gets the world title, that is an absolute waste. And it's a chance to have the guy who was the founder of AEW hold the WWE Championship.
Yeah.
Just,
Completely derails everything.
well,
And
everything
that's
that'll
key.
be left, which we'll come on to.
Definitely. And then Greg's made a couple of great comments. He's put in here, Cody had to finish his feud with Seth completely. Just unfortunately got injured and couldn't take the title of Roman. Yep,
So,
he could have.
yeah. But then do we think that would have been the SummerSlam match?
Would have been. He then says Cody won the title as money, and that's all Triple H will care about when booking it. Yep, and he also mentioned the idol part. Greg then mentioned Tyler Bate, which is a great shout.
Yeah, he's very, very active in the comments, and we love to see it. He's also sounding positive. I mean, he's more positive than we are. So that's a surprise in itself. But yeah, I mean, I hope it is Cody that takes
I wouldn't mind it.
Then the promo makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't mind it. And obviously, then Yeti Boy says, I think that AEW and WWE having a competition so you can book their champions the worst. Don't worry, we'll be discussing that today.
AEW would need to have a steady champion to book for, so we'll find out. I think Reece is mastering the art of ventriloquism at the moment.
Yeah, it's just not having the best of connection days, but there is other things. I think, see, in terms of the world title as well, if he hadn't been in AEW, I think Adam Cole would have been in that situation as well. Just because he's always been a favourite of his. It wouldn't surprise me if he had been in a world title match if he hadn't left.
Yeah, such a waste. But anyway, yeah, so I think, comments, some are saying that Cody wins it. I mean, the couple of people who've said Cody doesn't get the belt now, I just want to see your guests in the chat, and obviously guests in the comments if you're watching on the replay. Who beats him then? Who takes the title? And if you have more of an idea, how do they do it? And do they get just one? Do they take both of them? How do you resolve this situation that we are quickly, we're fast approaching just this show where, as I say, Roman Reigns is, head of the table, but he's actually head of everything. And it feels similar to when Xavier Woods was King of the Ring, and then Roman Reigns had to spoil that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even call Woods King Woods anymore.
He's just himself again. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed that because when they said, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, I was like, that'll be King Woods, actually. We'll remember. They don't, because Roman crushed his crown, which means he's no longer a king, because Roman Reigns took that.
Yeah.
He took everything. And we're getting to the point where there's nothing left for him to take.
I think there is one other opportunity. It's not going to be Nick Aldis, although I'd like to see him in the Royal Rumble. He wants to feud with Karrion Kross. I think that'd be a great long-term feud for them, and then Aldis eventually gets in the world title.
Would be good, but then you go from a long heel title run
into another.
Roman's not getting the mega babyface stuff when he feuds with Kross. People will cheer Kross. But then Kross is a very heelish face.
Yeah. I think for them,
if the crowd view him as the face, he's a very heelish face.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Bray Wyatt, of course, mentioned there. by a bull. I mean, that'd be a shout. Give one to Omos and then the other one to Strowman. That might actually be Vince's move. But yeah, no, Bray Wyatt is an interesting shout. He lost the title to Reigns in a triple threat. Yeah, he did. He did do that. I don't know. I feel like it has to be Cody, but I think Bray's an all right backup. Again, we have to see what's happening with Bray Wyatt, and of course, we saw what happened with Bray Wyatt last night on SmackDown, where he had his first interaction with another wrestler, and that was LA Knight. So that's interesting to see. I like the LA Knight sort of arrogant, you know, go play with your puppets, stick them wherever gives you pleasure. You know, LA Knight's fantastic. Can't believe they were going to waste him in that maximum male models shtick. Yeah, not quite sure what's happened on Reece's side of things there. So we'll wait to move on to the next topic. But yeah, no. What do you think of the? Oh, here we go. You all right now?
Hopefully, I'm back now.
I had the connection issues before, and you've got them during.
Yeah, my apologies. I'm having a really shit today.
Oh dear. Okay. Let's see some comments we've got. Yeah, LA Knight knows exactly how to use the mic. I'm not imagining things here. Like no one else can hear Reece. Like it keeps disconnecting. Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm not talking over it.
Yeah, I keep having this shit with it. I'm going to switch to my data, and I'm going to do it off my data. Like.
All right. Okay. I didn't want it to be like I was talking over you and I couldn't hear it at all. But because
no, of course not. No, I completely agree with you. I'm just having the unlucky side today.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Just bad luck, bad connection. But that's all good. We'll hold down the fort.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Abul says LA Knight. You know, we loved seeing him with the microphone again. Better than the maximum male models stuff I was saying while you were sorting yourself. I mean, yeah, without the camera, I mean, we all know what you look like. So if holding the connection means no face cam, that's all good.
I've just switched off just now just so I can get myself onto my data on there.
Okay. Well, I think while you do the switch over, what was the next topic you had lined up? Because I think we now go into the deeper discussion. Yep, I think he's in.
Yeah, I should be okay. I should be okay now. I hope so. Anyway, I should be all right. Yeah. So, LA Knight's a good shout. LA Knight, absolutely entertaining, very good worker, brilliant promos, but in my opinion, is not world champion material.
Yeah, no, I was just saying Bray Wyatt was mentioned, so I was talking about obviously Bray Wyatt, LA Knight. They had their interaction last night on SmackDown, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind that. I think right now he should not be near a title because they are still because they're still getting his character in motion, the personalities. There's one person I will never give a world title to because he's absolutely awful. Omos. Nah, I'm sorry. Nah. I do not want to see him hold a world title.
Yeah. I said that's what Vince would do.
Yeah, and I agree with this, Abul. Rest in peace, Batman. Rest in peace.
Oh, that's Batman. Who he is. Okay.
Yeah, he was the animated.
Very sad.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy voiced the Batman animated character in the 90s and the Justice League version of Batman, so that's what he did. So yeah,
I wasn't really a superhero kid. I was Disney.
Yeah, certainly a long one, but completely. But in terms of, because obviously I've got a lot of catch up there. In terms of like the booking world champions strongly weekly, we'll certainly come on to that. I think. If Cody doesn't win it, I think I was mentioning there briefly for a minute, it decided to fuck me off. if he hadn't went to AEW because of what was going on with Vince behind the scenes, I genuinely think Adam Cole would have been a very strong championship option, because it is what Triple H based his NXT foundation on. He built it on talents like Gargano, Finn Balor. He built it on Nakamura. He built it on Adam Cole, and obviously that excellent title reign. The likes of Pete Dunne, like, he had all this. And if he does get back into that motion again properly, and he centres all around this, and even the likes of Seth Rollins, you've got genuine options. And in terms of this question by Abdul, if it comes up, come on. What do you think of Big E coming back to dethrone Reigns? Skeptical. I'm quite skeptical on that one, because he should not come straight back into a world title picture after breaking his neck. That's like putting that would be complete fracturing the situation.
Yeah, but at the same
There's
time,
no way I would
nice
do that. I think that would be a very bad decision.
It'd be nice for him not to get nuditis, though. Like, you know, how Kofi lost to Brock Lesnar and then just seemingly forgot he was WWE champion. He was just like, don't want that back. Back to the tag stuff I go, because I'm humble little Kofi Kingston. I'd like to see Big E come back with a chip on his shoulder. They're like, no, I'm getting my title back.
I suppose. I just think I wouldn't want it to go straight back in and be champion.
You'd have to get a couple of matches, sure, but they don't have to be feuds. You could just win. You know, he could be unstoppable on SmackDown. You know, he could beat up the Usos, be like, I demand it, Roman. I demand it. You know, you could get like an unhinged Big E. And I actually quite like that.
And on the back of that, because we've discussed the world title picture, we've discussed looking in that sense, we are now. There's something there. There is something. But on the back of that now, because of where the discussion is going, come on, for fuck's sake. It's not bringing up my banner that I had. Either way, the next one in question obviously was Triple H's booking. Good or bad? Good parts to it, the bad sides. Where do we think it could improve? And for yourself, really, I think there's one glaring bad issue for me. It's the SmackDown Women's Division. You cannot book that for the life of them, and I am sick to death of these multi-women matches. I'm sick to the back teeth of them. So I'm going to let you take the reign on that one, because I'm just going to tell my brother to turn that fucking telly down. I'll be back in a minute. Okay. But over to you. The good or bad decisions?
Yeah. So I think we'll start with the SmackDown Women's title. Obviously, there was a 6-pack challenge last night, and no, I don't remember all 6 that were in it. But it ended up that Shotzi Blackheart, with her tank back, is going to be the next number 1 contender for Ronda Rousey, and then Shayna Baszler choked her out backstage. Again, you're getting the sort of feeling that, I mean, half that 6-pack challenge just aren't good enough to even ever be believable women's champions at this point. You know, they've either been buried so deep, people like Lacey Evans, that they're not going to get a chance. There are people like Sonya Deville who are clearly there to just fill a spot. Or, you know, it's even these people like Shotzi and Eilidh who aren't ever, like, they're not going to be on that level. We just know they're not going to be. They can keep them in the picture up there, but they're not ever going to actually win it. So rather than having a dedicated feud, we're going to keep bouncing between one-off opponents for Ronda until either Charlotte comes back or Shayna and Ronda turn on each other. And I don't really care for seeing that. I think Ronda Rousey is a horrible, arrogant, and this is shoot. I don't mean she works this gimmick. I think she's horrible. I think she's arrogant. I think she's also an idiot, quite frankly. I don't think she has a lot of, at least, business sense. I mean, obviously that stuff came out that, you know, Ronda Rousey wanted to use thumbtacks. She wanted to use screws. She asked to use Lego in the match against Liv Morgan.
Yeah.
This is where her brain goes. She's here for a laugh, you know? And yeah, I think I don't know if they have enough women to have 2 women's titles anymore. I don't think they have enough on the level, or at least not 2 women's world titles. I think you'd get away with having a women's US championship. I think scrap the tag belts, but we've known this for so long, and I say it every week. Scrap the tag belts; they mean nothing, and it seems to be their main purpose is for YouTube channels to clickbait videos by going shock title change on last night's Raw, and then it's the women's tag team titles, and you're like, I don't care. Just can't care because they haven't booked it right, and the belt is so beyond hell. So scrap the women's tag belts, and then pick the prettier of the Raw or SmackDown design. Scrap the one that you don't choose. You'd maybe even change it so you just have one women's title and it would have like a black background, or you can make it look entirely different, but they're not going to do that because they have a certain way that they need their championships to look for merch sales and everything like that. I do think that a separately designed women's title would be more of a draw because, again, it would look like its own thing. And Becky Lynch will hate that I say this, but the women should feel like their own division. That does not mean that I'm saying it has to be inferior and we need to go back to 4-minute matches, but they need to feel like their own thing. And I think having a women's world title and a women's US title scene means that the people like Eilidh, like Shotzi Blackheart, Sonya Deville, if you're going to put her in there, like Raquel Rodriguez, they can feud over a belt that's actually believable. Alexa Bliss is world title level once they start booking her correctly. I mean people who aren't there yet. They're too green.
We'll come to this very shortly, Bill, because I do agree with you. And I do agree about his comment about Shotzi was a surprise winner. Yeah, she's going to get flatlined. She's going to get flatlined. But I do agree. I wouldn't mind changing that. For example, take the concepts of previous titles, rework them a little bit, and use it as a women's division opportunity. I think that'd be great. Classic designs could be used for the better of the long term. So I completely agree, and I've got no problem with that at all. I think it'd be good to have, in the concept of it, Raw women, SmackDown women going across the brands as that champion, where you're defending the world title on Raw and SmackDown. The only thing is, last time they done it, they got it wrong because they didn't have numerous challengers. They were just sticking to the one. It was really
just wouldn't
ragged.
Brand split the women.
Have them across all one brand.
Split them because then you're opening yourself up. There are probably 15 to 20 names that you could believe have a Abu, that was terrible. And again, they shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be. Women's wrestling has been very technically sound. Yeah. They've not been having the hardcore matches as long as the men. So you're going to see more botches. It's not a sexist comment. Why would I be making a sexist comment about women? They're not as experienced in terms of these hardcore stipulations. I don't think it's a coincidence that the last women standing between Bayley and Bianca was bad, because how many hardcore matches has Bianca Belair had? How many? Yes. All tag teams? Yeah, actually. I would go for that. I think, plus tag team wrestling being on one show, I think that's a really good point, Yeti Boy. Because having the tag teams on the other show makes it feel different to that one. So if you're like, the women are on SmackDown and the tag teams are on Raw, you're like, oh, well, Raw's where I'm going to see my tag wrestling. SmackDown's where I'm going to see my women's wrestling. And then we still have the IC in the US. We're not getting rid of that. And we have our world champions.
Absolutely.
Then you've got a really sound basis going forward. And so, if all the women were on one show, maybe they only need one title. I mean, then
it was like back in the Ruthless Aggression era. It was like back in the Ruthless Aggression era. The Cruiserweight title was SmackDown exclusive. The Women's Championship was Raw. So it didn't matter if you were a woman competing on SmackDown, you were never going to get a women's title opportunity because it was on Raw. So you'd be lucky if you got drafted. And it was the same if you were a cruiserweight. You're never going to, you can be booked on Raw to go up against an IC, well, the US, the Intercontinental Champion at the time before it got switched back to SmackDown. But you can do it in that way where you're never going to get a cruiserweight title unless you were on SmackDown by luck. So, no,
yeah, we've obviously seen since then that they've scrapped that sort of thinking because the women's tag champs can go wherever they want.
Yeah.
So even if they wanted to keep women on both shows, the champion could at least be floating. But I would just have them all.
100%.
They either all appear on both brands, or as Yeti Boy said there, only one show, and then the tag teams are only on the other. I think that's a tidy way to do it. And then I think you stop seeing this urge for the women to do hardcore matches because they need to be like the men. They actually don't. They only need to be like the men in the sense that they need to have good matches. And if they have good matches, we'll judge them as good matches. We'll stop saying that was a good match for a women's match, which I don't like hearing it. You know, because one of my favourite matches this year was Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch. You know, I thought that feud was really good. And I think there's been other, really good moments in women's wrestling recently. I mean, Asuka's an absolute standout performer. It's nothing to do with her gender at all. It's the fact that she got the chance. She wasn't involved in loads of, hardcore stuff. So she just got to wrestle. And if you give them that same opportunity, if they were in their own division on their own show, or like on one brand, they don't have to always accelerate the feuds and go, this is a six-pack challenge or anything goes. And by all means, keep the money in the bank if you need to. Keep that money in the bank match, but don't have them do these ridiculous stipulations, because Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey was rubbish. Bayley and Bianca Belair was rubbish at Crown Jewel. And the six-pack challenge last night had a rubbish botch in it. So it's not a coincidence at this point.
Yeah, another thing as well that's really telling is it was in my head floating around, is mentioning like tag teams. This is another bad thing about booking. Coming at that is one big problem for me as well is when you've got separate titles, is that should have been changed ages ago. If you're not going to split those titles, instead of calling it undisputed, just go back to calling it the tag team titles and get it as black, a black with gold centerpiece. But this thing as well, I'm not going to call her Sarah Logan. I'm going to call her gimmick infringement, because that's what she's doing. She's gimmick infringing. And I'm going to show you right now what I mean, because I wonder if anybody can remember this. Sarah Logan is actually stealing a gimmick. And I wonder if anybody knows this. Let me just get it. It's actually on my Twitter, because I shared it today, actually, because I knew I recognised
when
her.
you find it, but nothing occurred to me that she was doing.
Are you familiar with... Yeah. I'm just waiting for it to bloody load now. Hurry up. Piece of crap.
That data coming in hot. Yeah,
No, it's in here.
I thought the Viking Raiders look was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you familiar with the likes of Heidi Howitzer?
I'm not.
Heidi Howitzer and all that is involved. It's like that is the likes of like Synergy and Cinemax. They're an Indies tag team. Sarah Logan is using their gimmick.
Yeah,
pure using it, so it's completely taken off by a mark on it.
I didn't get the grey.
Which isn't good.
Why did she have half a grey face? I feel like she could have. I feel like she could have done things without that. I feel like she didn't need the Again, I like the Viking Raiders' new look. I thought it looked darker. I thought they looked more unhinged like that, and I like the little sort of cross on them. But no, I don't. I don't like how Sarah Logan looks at all. And again, all this stuff about face paint and covering your
Can you still hear
eyes.
me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me absolutely fine.
Yeah, aye. So Synergy and Cinemax, they're an indie tag team, but they're based off that whole Viking look with the full cover face paint, the classic war paint look, and she is completely stealing it, and it's horrible, really. Have you ever heard of Max the Impaler?
Yeah,
The whole full front face paint and the whole horrifying look is exactly what he's doing in the Indies with Heidi Howitzer. She is
uh-huh.
stealing. She is stealing the gimmick.
Yeah. At the same time, it looks ridiculous, and this.
Very bad.
Yeah, but I liked what Hanson and Eric and Ivar looked like.
Mm-hmm.
I actually liked that. I liked the little sort of dark black streaks and stuff. It looked cool. If Sarah Logan then just came out as Sarah Logan,
It'd be
that'd have
fine.
been, fine, great. Why does everyone need to do this? House of Black, my eyes been covered by the darkness of the paint and everything like that, and trying to make their look more sort of poetic and more sort of emblematic of their character. It's like, if you're a good enough actor, you don't need to wear your character because you just are them.
You just live the gimmick properly.
Yeah, you just live the gimmick, you know? I mean, this just fascination with face paint, I don't like it
I mean,
at
I
all.
love it. I love it, but I
I mean,
wouldn't go as
how far back are we tracing it? Because obviously, face paint was Ultimate Warrior's thing. But are we also saying that this is inspired by Finn Balor to a point?
I don't think
Are
so.
we saying it's inspired by where does the buck stop? Because I would say it's wildly different to Ultimate Warrior.
I think when you're looking at the full enigmatic feel, I think first of all, when I seen it, I immediately thought of Heidi Howitzer and Max the Impaler because I've seen
That
the look.
shows your scope of the wrestling scene.
I've seen it in the Indies, but when
Mhm.
you look at the full cover all the way down, it doesn't give me Ultimate Warrior look. It gives me classic Sting. It gives me Great Muta in the 80s, in the early 90s as well. It gives me that. It gives me. There's another like the likes of Tiger Mask as well. At one point, was wearing full on face paint. There's levels to it where it's acceptable, and then it's taken it too far, and it's really pathetic that you have to deep dive into classic gimmicks, hoping that nobody remembers that Sting used to do his face paint down to here. It was never the full cover until he changed to the Crow. It's And obviously the Great Muta over the years has adapted. Even Jeff Hardy, like in the 90s,
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy at times in the 90s wore face paint like that, but he was
Yeah,
never
I
copying
feel like
someone.
I feel like we need to talk about so the Triple H bad here and sort of the overall bad that I want to touch upon. Face paint, yeah. Darby
It
Allin's
does.
face paint's great.
The
There was also where he tattooed. What was it? It was like the coffin will close on Brody King. He tattooed it on his hand.
Yep.
He's absolutely unhinged. And I like it.
So do I. I think when it comes to face paint, it fits people and it fits the gimmick and it fits the look, and depending on how you do it. And there's some people that it generally just does not fit at all. And they know when to pick their moments, they know when to pick their time to apply the face paint. Like Jeff Hardy, when he was reapplying the face paint from, like when he started doing it again in 2003, he would use it and it would only be it would be splashing off his face. It never really looked and never really stuck. You get to 2008, 2009, he's starting to reapply it to his face. And there's some weeks where he isn't applying the face paint because he picked his moments. Now he's doing it every flaming week. Sting was always face paint. Ultimate Warrior was always face paint. The Great Muta, always face paint. Because it reflects the character. It got them over. But also it was their personality that got them over. Sarah Logan is doing it and she's stealing someone's gimmick. It's never going to work.
The overall bad I think I'm getting to from Triple H is people show up, and I don't think we're on the AEW line.
Yeah, I like that point by Yeti Boy. Like for a big match, I agree with that. And then
it's not
listen to some great ones. No, I can't ignore Doink the Clown because Doink the Clown's another good point.
Yeah.
Like it is to a degree.
It is. But
Jericho as well.
the thing I'm getting at with the Triple H sort of okay, Sarah Logan turned up, but like okay. So Dexter Lumis, he's in a feud with the Miz and stuff like that, and direction seems clear.
Mm-hmm.
Some people seem to just be showing up because Triple H likes them, and then you're not clear on what they're actually doing. And here's my key example of it. Braun Strowman.
Waiting to see how long it would take before you mentioned
How quickly can someone get lost in a shuffle? You know, he's just one of 8 guys in this World Cup after beating Omos at Crown Jewel. When he didn't debut, returned. When he returned, it was tag division stuff again. I didn't get what he was coming in to do.
They don't know.
That's the thing. Sometimes it seems like they're just getting a face and they'll work it out later. Like, don't do a Tony Khan. Please don't do a Tony Khan. If you're bringing someone in, you need to have a vision for them. You brought Karrion Kross back. Fantastic. You knew exactly what you were going to do with him. Great. It seems like you brought Braun Strowman back because he asked.
Yeah. Even bringing Nakamura back from injury, they didn't know what to do. So they put him on NXT for a couple of matches. Then he was appearing in a 6-man tag. Like, there's no... I'll tell you who else I actually worry about getting lost in the shuffle because I really like the feud. I really like the stable and I don't know what's going to happen. I really worry for Legado del Fantasma. I'm starting to worry because Hit Row were doing really well and now Hit Row are getting destroyed by the Viking Raiders.
Yeah, so but Escobar got a good win. I think
he did. Oh, he did. I just don't know
what's going to... will be fine. I think Legado will be fine. I just think you've got to watch how many more faces show up and make sure they get the right faces. So I'll tell you now, if Nick Aldis comes into the company, what does he do?
He is going to be, if Nick Aldis comes into WWE, one, he's going to do an AJ Styles. He's going to debut in the Royal Rumble, which is fine. And it's going to lead him to the feud that he's actually wanted from... It's actually stemmed from social media. Karrion Kross called him out on social media when he announced he wanted to leave. Karrion Kross replied to his tweet saying, I want a feud with him. And then he immediately quoted it saying, I want this as well. So you can see a long-term...
Is there something to be said that Nick Aldis can't debut in the Royal Rumble or on the main roster on the grounds that who the hell is Nick Aldis?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't think he's a big enough star. I really don't. I think if he shows up in the Rumble, you're going to get a few cheers because it's someone new, but it's not going to be like, oh my God, Nick Aldis is here, former NWA. You got to remember how few people actually care about the NWA anymore. You know,
true.
If Nick Aldis was coming into the company, you'd have to have Cody introduce him.
Should be, yeah, because they had a brilliant feud for the £10 of gold, and it was a really good title match.
All in.
They did, yeah.
Yes, it was all in.
And it was a brilliant match. I really loved their feud, even though Cody Rhodes held the title for only a few weeks, and then Aldis took it back, and he held it for another 300 days.
It was worth it for the moment, though.
Absolutely.
To get that moment, to get Cody Rhodes the NWA World Heavyweight title, it was worth doing that.
Yeah, I really like Aldis. I've liked Aldis for years, so I'd like to see him.
I don't think, again, Nick Aldis shows up. What's he going to do? Braun Strowman has shown up, but what's he going to do? You know, like where is it going? If more faces turn up, and even the faces he's got, you know, you're kind of like, Ciampa seems a little directionless.
It doesn't help that he's injured as well.
Yeah, Gargano's it. Well, yeah, that obviously doesn't help. But again, even like, you know, as soon as he took the reins, you're like, oh, this is huge. Ciampa's getting a match against Lashley, and then.
And also, Gargano's just lost in the sense that he's exploited the whole stupidity behind the the Loomis and Miz feud because it was paid to get ratings. But that's the booking sense. But Gargano gets nothing out of this. He
well,
isn't
Gargano's the whistleblower that's revealing that Miz is paying Loomis to attack him so that Miz's popularity increases and things. But you're like, okay, moving on. Like,
exactly.
What investment do I have in stopping Dexter Loomis attacking you, Miz? I don't like Miz. So Gargano exposing Miz being attacked by Loomis every week, Gargano doesn't get anything out of that.
Yeah, exactly. He's not going to get a US title match. He's not going to get another great match with Chad Gable, who deserves another. He deserves a solo one of his own.
Yeah, it's really convoluted. It's really convoluted, but I feel like that's his main problem. It's people show up without intent. Emma's in a thing with Madcap. Emma, won't they with Madcap, looking for Madcap? Or like, okay, A, where'd that come from? And B, welcome back, Emma.
Yeah, this is what makes no sense.
You took a lot of sort of clout and credit from the indies to come back and be involved in a romance angle with Madcap, by the sounds of it. That or it was a throwaway line, or there's something going on Twitter. I don't know. I'm not on Twitter.
And remember, I criticised it recently about the fact that WWE have agreed to sign the wrong member from Impact. They've went for Chelsea Green over Deonna Purrazzo, which still pisses me off.
Deonna Purrazzo won't come back.
Sadly not, but she should, because she is top 3 in the world.
Because Deonna Purrazzo got annoyed that people were doing the whoop whoop while she was wrestling in NXT. Which is
a shame, because it's a shame, really. She's brilliant. I genuinely think she is top 3. That's pure bias.
At the same time, with notoriety at the time, people were always going to associate her with Marty Scurll. Mm-hmm. So, I think
luckily
there could have been more understanding on both sides of that. But yeah, I think in terms of a good booking, Triple H definitely makes the show more interesting. Things do usually happen. There was usually a reason to watch. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going, Liam. Yeah. Booking does feel less repetitive. It feels like things are happening more for a reason.
Yeah.
Maybe notwithstanding last night's SmackDown, which did feel a bit flat, as I said. But even then, you got a good tag match on it. It wasn't awful. I feel like the show does have more direction. I just feel like certain people come in and they don't have a clear direction to go.
Yeah, and that's where they really need to look at it. Because the one thing we mentioned the fact that it's always the same with SmackDown, where it's every month or so they're going to have this stupid multi-woman challenge. Raw, they don't know what they're doing with the long-term sense of. I don't know where they're going to go after the OC and the Judgment Day. At least they're building a good feud with them at the moment. That's good. They're not doing well. As much as I like Bianca Belair, I think Bianca Belair's title reign very soon has to come to an end, because her EST gimmick, where it's slightly smug, where she's the best at everything, that's not a babyface gimmick in my opinion. That's more of a heel. But they can't have something like Rhea Ripley, where she physically she can't have that in that sense. Where what does Bianca Belair do afterwards? There's things they're doing right. There's things they're doing wrong. It's going to be lost in the shuffle. Well, knowing when to pull the trigger on certain things as well. I don't think they know it up here. But that's spread across. Even NXT, they don't know how to pull the. They do not know how to pull the trigger on guys like Carmella.
Needs to turn around and pull the trigger on itself.
Yeah, they don't know how to pull the trigger on guys like Braun Breaker as well. Like when's he going to get his run on the top Raw? Like
it's just a horrendous show, Reece. Like I'm sorry to tell you, but there's nothing to NXT. Turn Bayley back face. You said that, didn't you?
I said it last week.
You said there'd be a double turn on Crown Jewel.
I was hoping for it. I was hoping for a double turn of Bayley goes face and Bianca takes over the damage control, because it makes more sense.
would make
But
sense from an NXT perspective.
But I just don't see where they're going with this now, where they can't have it where they cannot continue with Bailey not being champion and those two are. Because eventually it's just going to be the dominance of, well, Bailey's just going to get involved every week. Now Nikki Cross is going to be in Damage Control for War Games. Like, I don't know who the fourth woman's going to be for that.
It depends. I mean, maybe they are literally just doing 4-on-4 versus 4-on-4. Because, of course, we're talking about who else joins Drew, Sheamus, and the Brutes over on SmackDown for the men's match, but Sammy wasn't there. So it seems to be Roman, the Usos, and Solo versus the Brutes, Drew, and Sheamus. Much like on the Raw side of things, it appears to be Damage Control with Cross against Bliss,
Asuka, Bliss, Bianca, and Blank.
Belair, and...
Well, Blank, because we don't know yet.
Is Becky ready?
I don't think she is.
I thought her injury was longer than that, yeah. So, Naomi... don't...
I think it might be a surprise, like Charlotte Flair comes back, but then after the match, Charlotte turns on.
What a baby face. What a fantastic face. We'll be ready to cheer her to the rafters.
Yeah, they win. Yeah, the baby faces beat Damage Control War Games, and then Charlotte just turns on Bianca because she decides, actually, you know what, I want the title at the Royal Rumble, and she'll get it because it's Charlotte Flair and she wants 17 world titles, the greedy cow. Like, it's plain and simple. Like, I'm sick of her. I'm sick of her getting title matches. I want to see her elevate more stars because she hasn't elevated anyone in years. Like, I want Bailey to be champion or Rhea Ripley, but I do not want Charlotte Flair to do it. But if Charlotte Flair is the last resort to get a title run, then I'm going to be bloody physically sick.
Was the last one she elevated? I was going to say Rhea, but she took that belt back. So,
and she beat her at WrestleMania as well.
Asuka?
She hasn't elevated Asuka. She tore her.
She lost the second match.
Should have lost the WrestleMania match.
Yeah, but she lost. It wasn't at a WrestleMania. I can't remember what show it was on for the life of me. But
it wasn't WrestleMania.
Asuka over. She put Asuka over in a different match.
Yeah.
I just don't remember what that was, which I think says it all, really. But yeah, so I think, okay, if you were going to sum it up, I think Triple H makes a very interesting show that is mostly good viewing, where the majority of the characters have a clear direction. I don't think anyone does, Liam. You're not going to be hated here.
Except Billy, because Billy's like that with Roman Reigns. Like, he just likes the fact that, well, it's Charlotte Flair, she's got the name, when she's absolute horseshit.
I get it, and she does have her uses. She is talented, she's athletic. I can't stand her at all. But yeah, I think it's an interesting show where most of the wrestlers know what they're doing. They have clear feuds or clear goals. But I think the negative is sometimes we do have these people still just in no man's land. And if they're in no man's land, quite frankly, and it's harsh to say, you don't need them. Either put them down NXT or give them their notice. Tony will hoover them up.
What I'd like to see what I'd like to see after WrestleMania, because they're going to have an NXT show as well during that period. At WrestleMania, after WrestleMania, I want to see Tyler Bate on the main roster. I want to see Grayson Waller. I want to see Braun Breaker. But from a women's perspective, I want to see Mandy Rose back on the women's roster, whether it be on Raw or SmackDown. Because I
can't see her being over to that extent.
The only reason I want her back on is because she has come on leaps and bounds since going to NXT. She has come on leaps and bounds. She's been brilliant as world champion for over a year. I think she is good enough to be Raw or SmackDown Women's Champion, or if they just go down a singular route, she can take a title and she can actually elevate it. She elevated NXT Women's title, where it's actually harder to beat her. At least it's more entertaining, where, unlike, like, same with Braun Breaker as well, with the NXT title, Roman Reigns looks completely invincible and you cannot get at a vulnerable a champion where it looks vulnerable. With Mandy Rose in recent weeks on NXT, she looks vulnerable with Toxic Attraction being taken out. Braun Breaker, when he wins a big match, he gets taken out by the likes of Von Wagner and all that. Like, they're booking a champion where, yes, he's going to look strong or she's going to look strong, but there's still a little bit of vulnerability. And I think you bring them in roster, you've got something there. Like, Braun Breaker could win the Money in the Bank next year.
Yeah. I like what you said there as well. A little bit of vulnerability. We don't want the champions to look like putzes. We don't want them to be like, oh, anyone can beat them. But we want them to feel human. And
absolutely,
we've said it on the show before. When did this idea come around that you can't have a title change on a minor pay-per-view?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're always just waiting for WrestleMania for the world title to change hands. It's like, oh, will it be this year or will they wait till next year? Why isn't it who's going to win at Extreme Rules? Oh, it's an actual question. You know,
why can't you win the title Backlash as well?
Who's going to win at Backlash? I mean, the last person that won a world title at Backlash was. It was Jinder, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think he was the last guy to do it. But yeah,
it was.
It's just ridiculous how everything, we always build to just 4 shows in the year, and then only one of them ends up mattering at the end of it. So all the other pay-per-views, it's like, yeah, good matches, good stuff. You know, Extreme Rules was a good card. Clash, we absolutely loved Clash.
Yep.
It was mostly inconsequential. And, you know, Reigns is disgusting, same with Charlotte. I find it, yeah, there are defenders. There absolutely are defenders.
I defend Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins continues to get interesting. Roman Reigns took him 5 years to actually get the gimmick he should have had from day one.
Yeah, and Seth's got that perfect vulnerability. There's a bit of humility to Seth Rollins that Reigns and Charlotte just don't have because they've never been humiliated like that. Or they've never been, you know, in these tough matches and they lose. I mean, the last time Roman Reigns lost that sort of match, and we're not talking Baron Corbin, you know, you're going way back. You know, it was when he was feuding with The Shield. You're like, oh, Roman just lost the belt. I didn't expect that. And for so long, it was just wait for Lesnar. I hate for it to come back to him, but it was wait for Lesnar. Before it was wait for Roman to fight Lesnar. And it's almost like we're trying to shake ourselves out of that rut. And we're trying to get back to the point where the world title scene is a scene, and we're not just waiting on that next one person. But they're always better at booking the matches when they have a face champion. They're just always better at booking a heel champion run.
Yeah, I think as well, which doesn't help, and this is not his fault, but obviously, with Reigns, obviously, when he reclaimed the Universal title against Lesnar, he had to obviously forfeit it because of leukemia, which is a shame. Very horrible. Since then, he hasn't been a full-timer in the past couple of years. He is part-time. He is a part-time champion. The same people that defend, and I think you're going to agree with me on this one because this is really annoying because we've criticised Lesnar about this. A part-timer should not have a world title run that lasts X amount of years. It shouldn't be like that. They should have, if they're going to have, like, say, 5-6 months to elevate the title to, like, WrestleMania, and they've got a long-term plan in mind, like what Ronda Rousey did, where she held the title until Mania. Becky Lynch took it. You saw what Becky Lynch could do for a full year before she got pregnant. Reigns is holding it for so long, where a full-timer should never be that long. Should never be that long. And that is a massive problem. Okay. I don't care if Reigns is.
You could have the other problem though.
What the part?
You could have the problem over on the other side of the street.
And what's that?
That no one's ever champion. That your championship, say your title, your world title, keeps getting decided in tournaments. Say your world title stops mattering.
Yeah.
Say you started a company to get away from the feeling that you're WWE and that you pick one person and they end up being the guy, and then you put all these minor obstacles in front of them, and then you finally get to the major obstacle, and then the major obstacle wins, and then he blows up at a press conference, and then you have to take it off him again.
Yeah.
AEW. If you couldn't tell, if you're only on the audio and you couldn't see where that was going, and Reece so helpfully putting the banner up. Oh God, right. I watched this show this morning, and it may be one of the last that I watch for a while. I'm actually, the consideration is, do we actually need to cover Full Gear? Is this, do we need to full on cover it? Do we need a preview show? Because, right. For those of you that didn't know this, the AEW World Championship has bounced around and around and around this year. And Jon Moxley has won.
Bounce more times than the WCW title did.
Yeah. Jon Moxley has won 2 different tournaments to win this title. Now there's a 3rd tournament. But this tournament isn't for the title, it's for the number 1 contendership to the title. The MJF already has because he won a poker chip. And Hangman Page had because he won a battle royal. Remember that wins and losses thing? Remember when they were supposed to matter? Remember when people were supposed to build feuds up through wins and losses and you were supposed to be the top contender?
Which Seth Rollins got criticised for. When people said wins and losses don't matter, he said they do matter in a long-term storytelling manner. It's funny how he was always right.
They do. They do, because Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle had a long-term story where ultimately Matt Riddle got the win in the fight pit, but Seth Rollins then won the US title.
Exactly.
Because he'd been on a roll. AEW can't get this. If they can get it, they're choosing not to. Because, okay, this week, Ethan Page fought Eddie Kingston in round 1 of the World Championship Eliminator Tournament, where the winner is going to get a title shot against the champion, whether it's MJF or Jon Moxley. What they're not allowing to happen is for MJF and Jon Moxley to happen, and then the next person reveals themselves by either attacking the champion or calling him out or getting a bunch of wins and building the momentum. So instead, as I just said with the situation, there's a guy with a poker chip, and he's cashing that in at Full Gear, which will get him a world title shot. The last person to fight for the world title won a battle royal, and the next person to challenge for the world title after is going to be the winner of a tournament.
Yeah.
Reece, I'm going out of my mind trying to track this bleeding company.
I know.
How can people expect us to watch this?
I know. And I get slandered on social media for saying I prefer Impact Wrestling to AEW, even though I like some of the guys in AEW. For me, everyone knows how much I'm a big fan of Pentagon Jr. I'm a massive fan of Pentagon Jr. He's been his championship match was effectively ruined by the whole Kenny Omega news. Not his fault. Kenny Omega is brilliant in the ring. He's brilliant on the mic, but Pentagon Jr. is one of the best in the ring. He is. But he got lost in the shuffle because, oh, look, Kenny Omega's coming back. Is he going to get involved in the world title match? Well, look what happened. Pentagon Jr. lost in the shuffle. And I think Yeti Boy's spot on. They need to bring back the ranking system. They need to do a lot more than that. They need to generally remember what
they still have the ranking system. They just need to make it matter. And tournaments can work. But, and I sent you this, Reece, and I hope my counting was right, but I went on the Wikipedia. There is a separate Wikipedia page that is titled List of Tournaments in All Elite Wrestling.
I counted 15.
I counted 7 this year.
7 this year, yeah. But altogether, I counted 15. That's how bad it is.
So I get that a tournament can be used, and I get that you can sometimes prefer it because it's more unpredictable. But these tournaments have hardly ever been unpredictable, at least for the last 2. For the final 2 it comes down to. It's not like people looked at the Grand Slam Tournament of Champions Extreme Royale with cheese and said that it's not going to be Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. We all knew this. I'm going to actually put the light on in a moment because I've noticed
Although, to be fair,
as I've become more unhinged, the darkness is sort of sweeping into the shot. It looks like an old Edge promo.
Although I stupidly said Danielson wouldn't do it, the better option would have been Chris Jericho. And to be fair, I was right. That match between Moxley and Danielson was good. Like, I'm not taking it was good, but it was the wrong one. Two babyfaces from the same group against each other for the world title should never happened. And that's become it's constantly the same. And Yeti Boy is right. It's either Ring of Honor stuff, or it's the Jericho Appreciation Society, or it's Blackpool Combat Club. It's getting really annoying and repetitive, and the banner says, "Is AEW marked for death?" AEW is being marked for slaughter, and it's because they're not getting things right. And it says all that they're having Jeff Jarrett come back in a role, but then he comes on and attacks Darby Allin with a guitar.
Yeah, remember, we've been saying for the longest time, Jeff Jarrett should be in this company because he should be the head booker. So he's at least done it before, and it'll be more coherent. And instead, he's brought Jeff Jarrett in for booking venues.
Yeah, because he refused to relinquish his control.
The reason why the world title doesn't matter now is because there are too many championships.
AEW's got like
yes and no. There are too many championships, but that doesn't mean the world title doesn't matter. Because what an AEW fan would tell you, and I'm not one of these people that would say like, "Oh, absolutely, you're completely wrong."
Yeah.
AEW view their own titles as their own titles, and they view Ring of Honors as their titles. Now, this water gets muddied a little bit when you look at what happened this week on Dynamite between Wardlow and Samoa Joe, where Wardlow said he was going to take every single title, and then Joe was seemingly threatened by that, so he attacked Wardlow. Because he said every title in AEW, and maybe that was Wardlow getting carried away and like, I'm going to, beat Joe and beat anyone, beat whoever. But I think, so if you view AEW titles as their own thing, there's 6? Tag belts, women's belt, main belt, TNT, TBS, All Atlantic.
And then the trios tag titles.
Trios, 7.
Yeah.
So that's not loads for a roster of over 100 people.
It's just the fact that it's such a overexpanded roster on one show. They're not getting enough on.
Yeah, they need less of everything to build more of something. They need to sack off a lot of people. Like and that's harsh. And obviously, we don't like in an ideal world, we don't want people to lose their job, at any point. But if they're not helping you, why are they there? They get in the way. You get people, like you say, Blackpool Combat Club, Jericho Appreciation Society. Between those two factions, there's 13 people.
Exactly. And they get a lot of TV.
That was a rough count. It could be more than that. But, and then you've got people who sort of skate around the outside of them. So is Eddie Kingston in the Blackpool Combat Club? No, he's just a friend of them. And, what does so and so think about this and that? And it goes back to all these factions sort of colliding with each other, and it does become very stale. But the other thing that makes it become very stale is when you can't just have a feud. Because when there was just a feud, this show was great, at least for that feud. MJF and CM Punk was a fantastic feud. MJF didn't win a tournament to beat CM Punk. CM Punk didn't win a tournament to beat MJF. They had an issue, and they fought each other. So I feel like they need to do more of that. But they're so beyond the point now.
It's too little. It's the worst thing when you get to when we say as fans of wrestling, and we're still waiting on the so-called Ring of Honor shows returning, so the Ring of Honor guys can finally go back to there and actually build something. Like Claudio should be on AEW, should be a Ring of Honor. Chris Jericho, if he wants to remain the Ocho for so long, he needs to get out of AEW. He needs, and it's not harsh saying that, but he needs to. He needs to go to Ring of Honor permanently if he's going to be the long-term champion. Samoa Joe, get your ass back to Ring of Honor. They need to get the shows going, but will they do it? I don't know. If they're not going to do it, then just abolish the titles. Just abolish them. If they're not going to do anything from Ring of Honor, just say, well, that's it. The company's now gone. That makes it's two choices: get a separate show or retire the titles.
Yeah,
Sounds harsh.
What do you think of Yeti Boy's point there, that when the Elite come back, everything will be better booked? I mean, I will take this point to remind you that Kenny Omega books the women's division.
Yep. Exactly.
So while it's a low bar to clear Tony Khan, I don't know if Kenny Omega does it.
I think they need serious bookers like a Jim Cornette and a Dutch Mantel, and they need Jeff
Or the
Jarrett.
guy they brought into the company 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Jarrett. They need serious bookers doing the decision. If you book, the last thing the Elite did in terms of booking, they booked Kenny Omega to a 300-day title reign. And it was starting to get really tedious towards the end until they managed to get Bryan Danielson in. It didn't end well in that sense. Like, it was, you already knew what to expect. Kenny Omega's going to work a 30-man match. There's going to be blood in it, and then that's it. It's going to be over. I really do worry in that sense. And yeah, he did. He did book the women's division. He booked the Japanese
entire women's division. That was Kenny Omega's.
When
Riho defeated Nyla Rose, that was Kenny Omega's decision. At least that's how I've heard
it. They are losing.
The EVPs have those responsibilities. I don't know if the Young Bucks put the tag or if I've just read that somewhere.
Not sure.
It wouldn't surprise me the way that FTR's been used.
Yeah, they're being treated like shit. And Keith Lee and Swerve, what are we doing with them? Well, I can tell you.
Well, Swerve kidnapped Billy Gunn, and now they haven't kidnapped Billy Gunn.
It's just really...
I mean, outside of sacking everyone off and starting again, what can you actually do with AEW at this point?
Tell some people, sorry, but you're no longer welcome on AEW Dynamite. You're going to be stuck on Rampage.
So you would brand split them?
I think they've got no other option. There's too many people. There's far too many people. And it's going to cost them a lot to buy people out of their contracts. And you can't just force the work environment to be so bad that they just quit. They can't do that. Like, that's too far. They have no other. They have to split it over like Dynamite and Rampage. But it doesn't help that they're so insistent as well on having pay-per-view type matches on Dynamite and Rampage when that's not what TV's for. That has to stop. But I don't know.
The main event this week.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, in terms of what they're building to with the Ring of Honor title, they've got a 4-way at Full Gear. Now, the competitors in the 4-way make absolutely no sense, but it's AEW.
But the champion in the first challenge.
It seems to be that Tony Khan's just taken some names and gone, they'd be fun all together in a ring. Because it's Jericho, Danielson, Castagnoli. I had to actually think what his other name was, and Guevara.
Yeah,
again, I see Cesaro, all I see is Cesaro. I can't see Castagnoli.
I would have preferred a triple threat because you know me and my opinions on Sammy Guevara.
You're almost awarding him, aren't you? You put him in a title match.
I used to like him, and now what he's done, he's been an absolute prick. Look at him now, he's in Dubai with that absolute clown that he's with. Like, I can't stand her either. Ty Conte is an absolute clown.
Yeah, but it could be worse. They could still have CM Punk.
Yeah.
I think that would genuinely make it work. I think on TV it'd be better, but I think the atmosphere. It just feels like it just feels like a really unsettled place at the moment. It just feels really Like, it doesn't know where to go now. And maybe you're right. When the Elite come back, who was it? Was it Yeti Boy? Yeah.
Yeah.
When the Elite come back, it could be the case that, it's all tidier. But it's not like it was tidy before. It was, and you also have to acknowledge that the Elite did cause this as well. So it's not like the Elite come back and they're the peacekeepers. Now, of course, the investigation has ruled that, such and such has happened, and Punk's guilty of this, and the Elite did this, but it's not against policy. Basically, the investigation has ruled the Elite can come back, Punk has to leave. And they're in the negotiations right now for Punk getting his contract bought out. Ace Steel's already released writing on the wall time.
Exactly.
But you have to acknowledge that the Elite were wrong in what they did as well, because they escalated a situation. So therefore, when they come back, there's still going to be people in that locker room that are against them.
Yeah, and they should purely be against them from a wrestling perspective. I said it a number of weeks ago. The EVP status needs to be taken off them. They need to go back to just being competitors. It should be proper bookers, not doing the role, not them. They need to be stripped of that privilege. They shouldn't have that. And another thing about it as well is the minute they come back, they're going to be thrust into the scene where you already know who's going to be taking the title, stupidly, who's going to be taking the titles of Death Triangle. It's going to be them. I like the Elite. I like Kenny Omega. I like the Young Bucks, but I don't like how they act behind the scenes. They are just as toxic as Sasha Banks. Plain and simple, they're just as toxic.
Yeah,
and purely because you cannot reward them. Just like with Sammy Guevara, you cannot reward behaviour behind the scenes with privilege, and
Tony Khan has his friends.
I know, because he's an absolute.
He's close to getting all his friends holding a title.
I know,
Mox has a title. Jericho has a title. There was another one. Cassidy, leading Useless Pockets guy, he's got the title.
Yeah, and it's
he's just putting them all on his favourites. It's like universe mode. When I was, when did that first come in? So I was like 15, I think. I was like, oh, it'd be so cool if Rey Mysterio had every belt. I was a child. I did childish things. Like, no one wants to see that now. So again, you've got, like, Tony Khan just can't remove friends from business.
Yeah, and that's the big
possibly
problem.
The biggest downfall.
Yeah,
Sadly,
and that's another fair point. I feel like they've missed a trick with Pentagon Jr. as well. Like, I think he could have been a brilliant mid card champion.
There's missed potential all up and down the roster. Malachi Black, they could have put the belt on Cody, but obviously it fed into the stipulation that ultimately got MJF over. So maybe that one isn't valid. But they've absolutely ruined Jungle Boy. They've wasted Darby Allin. Adam Cole could have had the belt. Kyle O'Reilly could have fought for the belt.
Yep, they've wasted Danhausen. They've nearly crippled Hook's character as well.
I wouldn't say Danhausen's anything that can be wasted. I put him in the Orange Cassidy pile.
He could have been something because his look alone is significant.
Yeah, he could have been something in that, he could have done photos with the children. I wouldn't be doing anything in ring with Danhausen.
I think he could have been a mysterious character that could have got somewhere if they hadn't schooled him around.
And then they'd see him work, and he'd wrestle a match, and people would go, "Oh no!" There's a reason his matches are on Rampage. Let's just say that and leave it there.
I do feel bad for Hook, though. He is one I do feel bad for. But less of that. That's the. We were actually supposed to end on AEW tonight, but obviously we were in the line with the world title and poor booking. That we are going to end on something that we did speak about earlier on, and we're going to get everyone's opinion on this as well, because it is really telling, and we'll see who picks up exactly what we mean.
Yes.
We're going to end it on this week's show discussing this. And yet, boys, good comment here. I would love to see United Empire get another run.
I really like United Empire, but
good shout.
I don't think Will Ospreay wants to actually
do it now.
Work with AEW long term. I think he's happy in Japan. I know that he hates Kenny Omega, and it seemed like they were building to something. but it
What
never
could have
happened.
been? I mean, you're not going to see the Rainmaker there for a while as well. What could have been?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Anyway, our golden shovel. This feels like almost like a reward, like an award show, you know, where we're going to be like, and the nominees for the golden shovel. Good
good
point,
shout.
Abel.
I'd love
You
that.
could probably find it in Mexico, I imagine. Because Rey Mysterio
Yeah,
worked the Indies for a bit.
yeah. I'd love to see
But
WWE where Pentagon Jr. does beat him. Him and Ray Phoenix as WWE Tag Team Champions would be beautiful.
I'd be surprised if that match hasn't happened before, but I don't
think
know if it has. I know Rey Mysterio was on the Indies like
I think it might happen in
2012,
Lucha Underground.
2013. Had a few
I think
years.
it might have happened in Lucha Underground, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah,
I think
but
it
we'd
might.
still like to see it in front of a larger audience. Absolutely agreed. So,
Yeah.
everyone in the comments, who are we talking about with the golden shovel? Who this week receives the coveted trophy of the golden shovel? Who has been buried,
Yeah. Who's been
destroyed,
put 6 feet under?
finished? The dead man has raised his hand, the lightning has struck, the tombstone is engraved, and this man needs to join some sort of witness protection program for wrestlers because he is done.
And it's a damn shame.
It is. But have we got any guesses, or do we need to
Not yet.
blow our own cover?
No guesses yet.
Okay, Reece, you may just have to help them out here because obviously we want to be off pretty soon because I imagine you're the everyman. You'll be on the Man United preview.
I am. I'm hosting it.
Yeah, so we'll have to make sure that you've got enough time to breathe in the middle. So, guys, if you don't know who we're talking about, well, let's just say when he was buried, he definitely went A-Town down. Austin Theory lost the Money in the Bank cash-in, going for the United States Championship, which makes him look like an idiot. I get that he can't stop Lashley doing what Lashley does. He could get any title.
Exactly.
He could have just kept going. He still had time, you know. If what's meant to be believed that Money in the Bank this year's at WrestleMania, he has till April. How's he looking at the calendar and going, November? Crap, I've only got 5 months. Oh God, I best just take what opportunity I get. And that seemed to be what he did. And the problem is, he then didn't take that opportunity. He wasn't the mid-card champion. He hasn't become the mid-card champion. He did not defeat Seth Rollins. Golden Shovel, Shinsuke Nakamura? No. Shinsuke Nakamura's fine. He lost a good little match against Santos Escobar. I don't think so.
It's not Nakamura. Losing to Escobar is actually a good thing, to be fair.
Yeah. Losing your Money in the Bank contract by cashing in on a mid-card title and failing to win the title. Goodbye.
When you were teasing you were going to cash in either on Reigns or you're going to cash in on Braun Breaker.
Yeah, and again, the whole thing, if they're telling the story of I just couldn't cash in on Roman because every time I did, Brock would appear, or this would happen, or the bloodline would stop me. He had 5 more months. I'd understand it if WrestleMania was in 3 weeks. I'd understand him going for the mid-card belt and just take what you get before the contract's taken away from you.
But remember, he holds the Money in the Bank from July to July. Well, no longer anymore because obviously
the
Money in the
rumor
Bank
was that Money in the Bank was scrapped because it's going to go on to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So I think he has till at least April. It's only November.
He's lost everything.
Yeah, so I mean, where does Theory go from here? Does he go back to NXT? Is the thing that he's too green? How do you recover?
I don't think he goes back to NXT because he is well established in the main roster now, and there's a lot of good feuds he can do. My problem with it is, for Theory, is he got the unfortunate Roman Reigns treatment by Vince McMahon, where he was forced on people. He was forced on people too early, which is unfair. I'll come to his comment in just a second, Abel. It was unfortunate. He was forced really early. He was expected to be the main guy immediate, and it hasn't worked. Now, if you're not stupid enough, you can give him proper long-term booking where he can get himself into a mid-card run, get a mid-card title on, and you actually see him develop as a mid-card champion properly. It was forced on him in the wrong way, really young, Money in the Bank. He was never in the match anyway. He should never have been added. And it completely took away his development. It's now, when's he going to cash in the Money in the Bank? Is he going to do it? Everyone knew he was never going to win the world title. Everyone knew that. But they fucked it. They should have had him cash in and get screwed over by the bloodline. In some way, shape, or form. Or he is going to cash in and he gets stopped by
cash in to separate the titles.
Yeah, they could have done. But instead, they've wasted Money in the Bank again. And this is why I want it scrapped as a pay-per-view. They are wasting it.
I mean, last I read, you're getting your wish.
Yeah, I can't believe you're happy he got buried. How can you be happy?
I understand. I mean, again, it depends. Like, from a character point of view, if he was a dickhead, you would be happy that he's screwed over. But I take a step back and I go, this is a very talented wrestler. And this isn't just losing his cash in. If you lost cash into Roman Reigns, you'd be like, oh, classic Roman. No one can have anything nice. But this was the mid-card title that he cashed in on, which already makes him look like an idiot. And it makes him look inferior to the level that you have to be to win the Money in the Bank. The only other person to ever hold the Money in the Bank contract and think about not cashing in on the world champion was Otis. Then there's a reason The Miz took the case off Otis. So he could then cash in. The Miz won the title with it. So people who say, like, oh, The Miz, why is he still there? Well, he's 100 times more intelligent than Austin Theory, because Theory didn't even think, I could just pay Lashley to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
They could have taken it to a level where there's no shame in losing the Money in the Bank where you get something out of it. Like, he could have had, like a Mr. Kennedy, for example. He was not in the best place after WrestleMania. There was a lot of questions about him. So what did they do? They gave it to a guy who's already well established in the main event scene, which is Edge. Edge goes and beats The Undertaker after that steel cage. Smart, done, move on.
Yeah.
Otis was never going to be
one of those things. It can completely change the direction your show's going in.
Yeah.
And recently it hasn't done that. It's just been a thing. And I mean, the fact that the women's one is always cashed in on the same night, they seem to have made it a thing. Like, it's a quirky little thing to watch out for. Like, I'd rather they were a bit more intelligent than you continued this sort of.
Because the only one that had a longer run with it was Carmella. That I remember. She held it for a little bit, and that was it. Gone. Like.
No, I actually don't think anyone has.
Yeah, I think Carmella's
the case that every single. I thought it was the case like. Oh no, I suppose because Carmella technically won it on a SmackDown, didn't she? Because the first one was won by James Ellsworth, and then they redid the match.
Yeah, she won it on that, and she held it for quite a while. She did hold it for quite a while, actually. It was good at least.
But then obviously, Bayley was the same night, and the other
Alexa Bliss.
Bliss is definitely one of them. I'm like, who else has even won this?
Bliss,
I suppose
Bliss was the same night. Asuka didn't tend Money in the Bank.
ASH Cross. Yeah.
Yeah. And technically, Asuka didn't win Money in the Bank.
She did.
Asuka won.
She just then got the title the next night because Becky Lynch was pregnant and had to give up. But yeah, so in short, Austin Theory, I suppose this failed cash-in has done one thing. It's made you famous.
Yeah, and this is where I was coming from, like the chance to build him properly. Absolutely. Let him develop as a young athlete because he was doing really good feuds with the likes of Gargano. He was doing good feuds with Ziggler, although that changed really quickly. Kevin Owens was right, which is good. This is a good way to kickstart their feud for a little bit longer as well until you get to WrestleMania, where Kevin Owens could remind them, by the way, I did warn you, you could amount to nothing. Look at you, you didn't win the world title.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
There's your long term. Well, actually, in the end, I'm going to prove you wrong because I'm going to work harder. And the problem is that's not Austin Theory's gimmick. he's cheap and cowardly. Where he's like, well, actually, I'm just going to get back at you in a different way.
I get that. Anyway, so that I think that will pretty much do it. So, in short, it feels like we moaned about a lot today. If I'm honest,
I think we had.
we're sorry that it seems to be quite an analytical and sort of deep dive into things. And obviously, we've gone a bit longer than we planned on. But all those points were important. It's important to point out that while some things are good, some things are equally very bad. And in terms of AEW right now, most things are pretty bad. But we hope you've enjoyed it anyway. We hope that we've, despite our negativity, managed to brighten up your Saturday in some way. Reece, considering you are de facto head of the channel at the moment, you can obviously tell the viewers what's next and what's coming up. I mean, you're on it as well.
Yeah, so live in less than an hour's time, you've got the Man United Fulham preview for tomorrow. It's going to be a 45-minute stream. You got on Monday the Talk of the League podcast as well. You've got a couple of shows throughout the week, World Cup previews, and then obviously we're then back on the Saturday. So that's where we're at the moment. But yep, 100%. This is where we're going, and long may it continue. But in the meantime, great show from us. Thank you to everyone that's watched. We'll be back at 4 o'clock next Saturday, unless Eilidh has to start a little bit earlier, which is fine. That's something we always do. We always talk well in advance. But
yeah, I don't think anything's happening. But
but where we're at, good show. It's always good to have a little moan because we had to. But it's been a great show.
Negative energy out. We can now go into the next week, smiles on the face.
Absolutely. And to everyone that has watched, of course, the likes of Liam, Greg, Yeti Boy, Abul, we do appreciate you guys watching and getting involved in the comments. We really do appreciate it. We will be back next Saturday with another edition of The Golden Shovel. I'm only kidding. It's the weekly Steelchair podcast. See you later, guys, and thank you all for watching.